Assistant Professor from Electrical Engineering Department, Sanjay Godawat University. I welcome you all on behalf of Department of Electrical Engineering. So welcome back to the third session of today's STDP. For third session, we have a topic trends in fault diagnosis of electrical machines. For this topic, we have today's research person, Dr. M. Balaji, Associate Professor, SNN College of Engineering, Rajiv Gandhi, Salai, Kalavakkam, Chennai. Now, I will brief about the today's resource person, Dr. M. Balaji. He received his BE degree in Triple E, first class with distinction from Annamalai University, Master of Engineering in Power Electronics and Drives in Anna University, 5th rank from Sri Venkateswara College of Engineering, Anna University, and he completed his PhD in the area of special electrical machines from Anna University. He has published 25 papers in international journals and around 40 papers in national and international conferences. He has coordinated an international conference, organized national level workshops, and has delivered guest lectures at various conferences and workshops. He is a recognized supervisor from Anna University. He is currently guiding 5 PhD scholars, and 4 scholars have completed PhD under his guidance. His area of interest includes design and control aspects of electrical machines, electric vehicles, and power converters. He has completed a SERB project titled Design and Development of Hybrid Switched Reluctance Motor Type, worth rupees 22.9 lakhs under STAC scheme for young scientists during 2015 to 2018. He is co-principal investigator for the project titled Design and Development of Permanent Magnet Reluctance Motor Drive for Pump Application, funded by SERB, worth rupees 21 lakh 18,000. He received SNN Best Teacher Award for the academic year 2011-12. He is a member of IEEE and a life member of IST. So I welcome sir. Such a great personality today we have. So I welcome you sir on behalf of Department of Electrical Engineering, Sanjay Godawat University. Now I kindly request Dr. Balaji sir to start the session.
Okay, thanks for the introduction, ma'am. I'd like to thank Rajan sir for inviting me for this FDP. Okay, I hope I am audible and slide is visible.
Yeah, it is, everything is fine, sir.
Okay,
yes,
thank
sir.
you. So then I'll start this session. So I thought of sharing some of the concepts related to fault diagnosis and detection of electrical machines, or what you can call it as electrical drive system. What are the recent trends that is going on, okay, in this particular area? And all the slides that I have used is for illustrative purpose. Okay, some results I have also presented to show some of the results in which we are area in which we are working on. Apart from that, all the other slides that I have used is for illustrative purpose, right? So my presentation is we'll go for a general classification and what are the effects of fault and what are the recent trends in fault diagnosis, how we can diagnose the faults. So as we all know, there is a wider classification of electrical motors. Okay, so this diagram illustrates the classification of electrical motors, and recently we have seen that there is a research progress towards special electrical machines, right? Why we have switching over to non-classical motor, especially permanent magnet machines or synchronous reluctance motor or switch reluctance motor, okay, is because of compactness, is because they offer torque density, power density, okay, and efficiency. Efficiency is higher, okay, in these classification of machines. So that is why, okay, when you see the research focus is gradually shifting towards all these machines. So towards brushless DC motor, towards PMSM, this we can call it as PMSM. So there is a research focus towards PMSM, and we have reluctance machines, and in reluctance machine we have switch reluctance machine and synchronous reluctance machines. So there is a focus on synchronous reluctance machine as well. Okay, so the research is in this particular area, the usage of all these machines for the different e-mobility applications. I can call it as e-mobility application. Not only it is for e-mobility, for a wide variety of variable speed drive applications. So it is because all these things offers compactness, okay, and power density and improved efficiency. So that is why there is a gradual focus in these category of machines. But the general workhorse for the industry is, as we all know, is your induction machines. Okay, induction motor is what we use everywhere, but slowly the research is progressing towards replacing this induction motor by the so-called, what we call it as non-classical motors. On these category of machines is what we call it as non-classical motors. And as I said, we use these motors for wide variety of applications. So this we can call it as motion control systems. For everyday life, okay, in everyday life we come across different kinds of motion control systems wherein we employ different category of electrical motors. Okay, it's not only it is not only based on permanent magnet machines. It's a wide variety of motor. It's also universal motor. It's also some sort of DC machines also we are using. So that I call it as motion control systems. In day-to-day life, we come across lot of motion control systems, be with the toys that our children play with, okay, or whatever maybe the electric vehicle applications or the mixer grinders or vacuum cleaners. Okay, all these things are coming under motion control systems, and on all these things we use electrical motors. Okay, some sort of electrical motors, and especially for higher power applications. Okay, for higher power applications as well, for industrial automotive applications. Okay, or for MRI based equipment, or for health industry, home appliance. Like this, we can broadly categorize the applications. And as I said here, the focus is on more of permanent magnet machines because of the advantages of these machines. So we go for BLDC, or we can also go for PMSM based. We can also go for PMSM based category of machines. So like this, the progress is proceeding. Now, where comes the topic of fault diagnosis? Why it is very important? Okay, that we need to understand. Okay, suppose we are fitting a motor into application, right? And it is oriented with the help of a drive. Okay, everywhere when you say motion control system, okay, there will be some sort of drive which is involved. Okay, so we'll have control aspects, we'll have power electronics aspects, we'll have the motor design, and then it is coupled to the load. Okay, so we need to have an entire setup like this, okay, in order to achieve the desired action. Okay, so this is predominantly what we hear and what we talk is about EV applications. Okay, in EV applications, okay, so what happens is we predominantly have a drive setup. We need to have a power electronic interface. Power electronic interface plays a very important role. Okay, and when I want to fire the devices for power electronic interface, your control comes into picture. Okay, which device I should fire? Okay, what should be the commutation sequence? All these things comes into picture. So the entire development in motor technology, in power electronics technology, as well as in controller aspects, have made this motion control system possible, or what we can call it as have made this electrical drive technology as a feasible one. So there are advancements. That is why we all know that the application of electrical motors is expanding day to day. That as in the previous slide, we use it for almost every application, and for every application it has become possible because of the advancements in the motor technology, advancements in new materials. Okay, the different permanent magnets that you use, advancements in power converter topology, and the control algorithms. All these things have contributed for the development of your motion control system, right? And then when you take the research issues, okay, there are research issues that we can take up, and we are taking up research issues in the motor or load combination. Okay, we are taking up research issues in as a whole. Okay, not me or you, or in general the research focus. And then the research focus is on power converter topology, and then in the interface. Okay, what sort of renewable energy I'm going to have? Then if I use solar, what sort of control algorithm that I should use? If I use wind, what sort of control algorithm that I should use? All these are research topics. Okay, so all these are progressing in the right direction in order to cater to the application requirements. Okay, so as I said, the application requirements differ. Okay, we go for a two-wheeler EV. Okay, again, then we go for a three-wheeler EV. Okay, then we go for a SUV based electric vehicle. So there are different categories. So each and every applications demands different sort of motor design, different sort of power converter design. So it is all based on application oriented design. Okay, suppose if I design a motor for washing machine, then I should have a different design specification. If I use it for a mixie, then the design specification has to be different. Suppose if I use it for a wind energy conversion system, WECS, then what happens? My design specification has to be different. Okay, so all the interface, all the power source and all the interface and power electronic converter has to come from the load. Okay, because this load depends on the application. This load is what is called as this load is nothing but our application. So based on the application, we need to design it. So the application may vary. Okay, as we all know, the application may vary. The application will be different. It can be a three-wheeler, it can be a wind energy conversion system, or it can be a washing machine control system. Like this, the application will differ. So depending upon the application, we have to choose a power converter and then we have to choose a power source. And there are research focus which is proceeding in all the directions. I hope this is what is the main theme of the FDP. Okay, as I understood from the name, this is what is the main theme of FDP and where we can contribute for this. Okay, where we can contribute, and this is what we would have had the interaction so far. So now what I have focused or I am focusing on is what happens when there is a fault in the system. Okay, how to diagnose the fault. Okay, there are two aspects. So whenever there is a fault, we all know that there will be variation in the performance. The performance will deteriorate. Right now, where the fault will be? Suppose when you take a drive system, the fault can be here. Okay, this I can call it as one. The fault can be in the motor or in the load set, the motor load setup, or the fault can be here. Okay, in the power converter setup or the source. Okay, the source also can contribute to the fault. Okay, there might be some disturbance. Now, what happens when there is a fault in the system? As I said, the entire performance of the system will deteriorate. Right now, how to find? Okay, how to detect? So detecting is very important. Okay, first you need to detect the fault. You need to understand that there is a fault that is occurring in the system. After you detect the fault, then you need to classify the fault. There are two aspects. Okay, two aspects. Classify the fault. Why you need to classify the fault? Because we do not know where the fault has occurred. Whether the fault has occurred in the motor side, or whether the fault has occurred in the power converter side, or the utility itself is the fault. So like this, we need to detect in the overall drive system. I'm saying in the overall drive system, when I have a drive system, okay, I need to first detect, and then I need to, or I can say I need to first diagnose it. Okay, whether the fault has occurred or not, and if there is a fault, I need to classify the fault. What is contributing to the fault? Whether it is a bearing fault, whether it is a short circuit fault, whether it is an open circuit fault, whether it is occurring in the winding, or whether it is occurring in the power semiconductor devices, or whether it is if I use a solar panel for driving, whether it is a short circuit of the panel or there is any hot spot in the panel. Likewise, I need to identify the fault. Okay, so there lies the importance of fault diagnosis and fault classification. So this is what they call it as fault diagnosis and fault classification. Okay, and in modern trends, what they tend to do is they tend to orient this fault. Okay, they tend to orient towards this fault detection and diagnosis to data, or I can call it as data analytics, because it is the entire system. Okay, and they try to use new algorithms because it's the entire system, and the system becomes complex. Complex in the sense you have a lot of interfaces here, right? And your overall controller has to detect the fault and has to mitigate the fault. Mitigation is another action. How to mitigate the fault is again separate area. But the onus is on controller to find out whether the fault has occurred and classify what kind of fault, and it needs to provide the remedial action. So it is very critical in sensitive applications. Okay, even EV applications or any sensitive application, it's very critical to determine the fault, to classify the fault, and then you need to have a remedial action for that particular fault. Okay, so that is where the focus here. So when I say there is a fault, I need to rely upon large amount of data. I need to have either a means by which I can collect the data and say whether the fault has occurred or not. And in that way, it is again one or other form of, I can say it is data analytics. Data analytics in the sense we are going to operate on huge volume of data. That is what I am trying to say. Okay, so that is where they are integrating newer machine learning algorithms. Okay, they are integrating ML algorithms for classifying the fault, for detecting as well as for classifying the fault. Okay, so this is what I wanted to orient in today's session. Okay, so that is the primary focus of my orientation. Okay, so generally in an electrical apparatus, they classify the electrical apparatus into two categories. One, they call it as a transformer, other they call it as motors and generators. And this technique, what I say, is applied for the electrical apparatus as such. Okay, it's not only for motors and generators, it's for electrical apparatus as such. Okay, so then we can classify the faults as electrical faults. Generally, broader category we can classify as electrical faults and mechanical faults. Okay, this is with respect to machine. Okay, I'm saying with respect to machine. And then here I have stator winding, stator core, rotor core, armature, commutator and brushes. So these are all the possibilities of electrical faults. So similarly here what happens? Eccentricity fault, shaft, bent shaft, bearing fault, gearbox fault, all these are mechanical faults. Okay. So the faults can occur because of the electrical failure or because of the mechanical failure. Okay, but we need to understand which is contributing to the fault. Okay. And then what are the effects of faults? Okay, effects of faults, we all know that it is unbalanced voltage and line currents. We'll have unbalanced currents. We'll have increased torque pulsations. The average torque will decrease. The losses will increase. Okay, and there will be reduction in efficiency and there will be excessive heat. Suppose if there is a short circuit fault, again, it can cause permanent damage. So these are all the impacts of the fault. Okay, the overall performance of the system will deteriorate. Okay, so we need to act quickly to overcome the fault, or we need to have some mitigation mechanism that is to be operated upon whenever you detect the particular fault. Okay, so these are all the effects of fault. So generally how it is done, generally how condition monitoring is done. So what we do is we sense a signal. Okay, the signal can be either voltage or it can be current, or a slew of signals are there, a variety of signals are there. Okay, what you do is you measure the signals. Okay, you measure the signals. Okay, and then you compare it, you analyze it whether the fault is present or not. You analyze whether the fault is present based on the signals. You have some threshold. Okay, if this value is exceeding the threshold, what happens, whether the fault is there or not. Okay, and then you diagnose this. Okay, and then you diagnose this and then you take a corrective action. What corrective action I need to take in order to overcome this particular fault? So this is generally what we call it as predictive maintenance. We predict it. Okay, that is, we need to have a data. Okay, we need to have a data, or we need to have a lookup table. Okay, this data, what I say is what I call it as a lookup table. I need to have a lookup table and I need to say whether if this is the pattern of my signal, okay, then it is normal. If this is the pattern of my signal varies, then there is a fault. So this is generally what we do. And how we classify the methods? Okay, we classify the methods based on two categories. One, we call it as invasive techniques, other we call it as non-invasive techniques. Okay, so non-invasive techniques in the sense, okay, we have standard sensors for control action itself. Using that sensors itself, we will analyze it and we'll detect whether there is a fault or not. Okay, but what I'm trying to say is in non-invasive techniques, we don't need any additional sensors. Okay, with the help of the existing sensor, because generally for a closed loop control, we use sensors. Okay, generally for closed loop control, we use sensors. Okay, those sensors, it's not additional, it is the inherent part of the system. Okay, by using those sensors itself, we'll analyze the signals from sensors and we will say whether the fault has occurred in the system or not. Okay, so that is predominantly they follow this category. Okay, that is what we call it as non-invasive techniques. From the motor current signature itself, from the motor current signature or from the motor current data, I can say either motor current data or I can say either motor current pattern, okay, or all the same. Okay, from the motor current pattern, I will just try to classify, okay, whether there is a fault or not, and if there is a fault, what kind of fault is present. Okay, and in some, what do you mean by invasive techniques is, okay, they use some additional sensors. They use some additional sensor to predict the vibration, okay, or to predict the temperature, or to predict the sound, or this I'm not aware. Okay, like this they say some chemical analysis and then they also do vibration analysis and then they say whether it is a fault or not. So this is they employ additional sensors. We tend to use additional sensors. Additional sensors in the sense, some vibration sensor or a temperature sensor, we use some additional sensors. That is what we call it as invasive techniques. Okay, but non-invasive techniques generally we do with the help of motor current signature analysis. It means that inherently there will be some sensors in the system itself. From those sensors, I will be able to classify, or I will be able to diagnose whether the fault has occurred or not. Okay, so this is how it is done, right? Okay. So now all these pattern, okay, mostly they use current signature analysis for classifying whether it is a electrical fault as well as it is going to be a mechanical fault. Okay, generally they use both the techniques for classifying the nature of fault. And in this, okay, this is one more interesting thing. What they tend to do is in fault detection, how we are going to detect this is what I said. It is model free. Okay, again they classify into two things. Okay, one, fault detection. They say it is model free algorithms. That is, with minimal hardware, I can say. With some hardware, they are able to say either it can be a signal based or it can be hardware based. Hardware based in the sense we use some vibration sensors, or we use some acoustic sensors, or we find out the sound, and then we are able to say whether the fault has occurred or not. This is what we call it as a model free detection. And then there is one more thing which we call it as model based detection. This I will just say. So please understand there are two aspects. One is fault detection, other is fault diagnosis. Okay, as I said earlier, first we need to see whether the fault has occurred or not. First, that is what we call it as fault detection, right? And then we need to go for fault diagnosis. Fault diagnosis is what kind of fault. Okay, we need to know what is the kind of fault or what is the nature of the fault. Okay, that is what we call it as diagnosis. Now, what is detection? How are we going to detect? How are we going to say whether the fault has occurred or not? So there are two approaches. After fault detection, then you go for fault diagnosis. If fault is not detected, then you can go with a normal operation itself. Okay, so this is one more interesting thing, right? So now what is model free algorithm? So model free algorithm is what I have shown here. This is what we call it as a model free algorithm. So you have a sensors, we'll have a signal, and you'll just say whether the fault is occurred or not. From the signal, we'll say fault is occurred or not. Now, what is model based algorithm? Okay, in model based algorithm, what we do is we'll have a model. Okay, as per the original plant, we'll have a model. Okay, the inputs will be given to the plant as well as the model, and we'll predict the output from the model, right? So now they will compare the observed output with the predicted output. Now, if there is a difference between the observed output and the predicted output, then we can say the fault has occurred or not. So this is what we call it as model based fault detection. So there will be a model and they will compare the output from the model with respect to the actual output from the plant. So based on the difference between the output, they can say whether the fault has occurred or not. Okay, again, it needs to operate upon certain amount of data. Okay, you need to have a database, or what I'm trying to say is you need to have a lookup table. Okay, you need to have a lookup table, and you need to say whether there is a difference in this data, the data that is coming here, or I can say the output that is coming here and the output that is coming here. So based on this, what I can say whether there is a fault or not. So based on that, I can make a decision. I can make a decision whether there is a fault or not. Okay, and then I can go for classification. Okay, and then I need to classify the fault, right? Okay, right. So here again, they say there are different methods. Here they say qualitative model based and then quantitative model based. Okay, so here they call it as knowledge based. Okay, that is based on some previous lookup table, or qualitative trend analysis. They analyze the trend, or casual models or hierarchy based models. After this, this should come. This is the pattern, like based on the pattern they say. This is what we call it as qualitative model. Some model they call it as quantitative model. Okay, that is based on statistical model. Okay, they for example, you take the mean of the output current. For example, you take the standard deviation of the output current. Okay, like that they calculate. So here, when I say they are using model based algorithm, here they calculate the output. So how will they measure the output? Here they will take a standard deviation. For example, I am saying they will take the standard deviation of the output. So here again they will take the standard deviation of the output, and then they will say when there is a deviation, then they will say the fault has occurred. Okay, this is one of the method. Okay, that is what we call it as statistical based method, or computational intelligence based method, or they go for some filter based or parameter estimation or observer based method. Okay, like this the model based fault detection operates. So you have two methods for fault detection. So when I say two methods, okay, one we call it as a model free. Okay, one we call it as a model free. Other we call it as model based. Other we call it as model based. Okay, so these are the two methods of fault detection. And then the sub classification is whether I am going to go for invasive techniques or I am going to go for a non-invasive techniques. Okay, invasive techniques in the sense I am not going to use any additional sensors apart from the normal sensor. Here I am going to use some extra sensor and then I am going to use detect the fault. So though there comes the classification. Okay, there comes the classification. So these are the general techniques. In addition, okay, I need to go for a drive aspect as well. I need to go for sense the fault in the electric drive, or what I can call it as a power electronic interface. So I need to calculate the fault. I need to find out whether the fault is in power electronic interface. So it can be a capacitor fault, it can be a IGBT fault, it can be a diode fault. Okay, like this it can also contribute. Similarly, in IGBT fault, it can be a single IGBT fault or two IGBT fault. It can be a short circuit fault. It can be an open circuit fault. Okay, like this there are different faults. And similarly, when I use sensors, okay, when I use sensors, okay, the Hall effect sensor, modern days in PMSM machines or in BLDC motors, we use sensors. So there may be some sensor faults. Okay, there may be some Hall sensor faults as well. Okay, like this, the fault can occur in the sensors as well. Okay, so this is one interesting thing that you need to know. So again, semiconductor based detection algorithm, there are two techniques. As I said, one signal processing method, another model based methods. Now comes the very important aspect. Okay, now whatever may be the technique, that if I go for signal processing technique, then the signals vary with respect to both time domain as well as frequency domain. Okay, if I take a current waveform, okay, and if I'm going to detect whether there is a fault or not, I need to go for some time frequency analysis. Okay, because we all know that the electrical variables will vary with respect to time. Okay, my electrical variables will vary with respect to time. Suddenly there is a variation. Suppose, for example, we assume that if there is a sag, okay, then what will happen? There will be variation in voltage. Again, the voltage will increase. So for this waveform, okay, we need to do a time frequency analysis, and then only we can predict it, okay, whether there is a fault or not. So signal based algorithm, okay, we'll go for some time frequency analysis techniques. It can be a wavelet transform, it can be a Fourier transform. Like this, we need to go for some techniques, because the magnitude as well as the frequency will vary with respect to time. Okay, so these are the two things that we need to understand. So, and moreover, when I go for modern machines, like when you go for PM machines, there is additional thing that there will be demagnetization. Okay, we need to detect the demagnetization as well. So this is one more area wherein a lot of papers are coming. Okay, how to detect the demagnetization. And then the conventional thing, we have interturn fault, phase to phase fault, phase to ground fault. Okay, and similarly mechanical fault is there, drive fault is there, all these things are there. But in addition, we need to go for the analysis of magnetization as well. So like this, okay, we need to have a understanding, and then we need to classify it, the fault. This is what I said. So when I take in for non-invasive methods, so now generally what we tend to do is, we tend to take the sensor, okay, current sensor, voltage sensor, okay, and position estimation. Then we go for signal conditioning. Okay, we go for signal conditioning for removing the noises. Okay, because all the signal will have noises, we'll remove the noises. Then we sample the data. Okay, then we have the estimator, then we go for feature extraction. Okay, now what is this feature extraction? This feature extraction is what I call it as the time frequency analysis, because all these quantities are varying with respect to time. Now, how will you say that I have a fault or not? Okay, for that I need to have some statistical values. Okay, statistical values. That is, I need to have either, I should say, in terms of some numerical values. Now, how to convert the time varying quantity into a numerical value is the job of your time frequency analysis. So see, my waveforms are continuously varying. Okay, as I said, my waveforms are continuing. It will be like this. After some time, it will be like this. Then it will be like this. For example, okay, if there is a fault, the waveform will change. Now, from this data, I cannot say whether the fault has occurred or not. I need to do some analysis, and then only I need to say, because it is a closed system. Okay, we cannot predict it. Okay, so by an external view, we cannot predict whether the fault has occurred or not. We need to analyze the current signals or voltage signals. So that is where, that is what we call it as feature extraction. Once we extract the features, then we go for feature fault classification. Then only we can say what is, whether the fault is there or not, and where the fault has occurred. From the pattern, we can say where the fault has occurred. Okay, then we need to go for decision making. Okay, that is what is the corrective action. So this is the general trend that is followed. Okay, we go for signal conditioning, we go for data sampling, then we go for feature extraction, and then we go for fault classification. Okay, why it is very important? Because when I am, as I said earlier, when I am integrating with respect to a drive, okay, all the type of faults or all the type of components will also experience a fault. So then your classification becomes difficult, okay, because we need to take this system as a whole. We need to take the drive as a whole, then only the controller can act. Okay, it's not only about the induction motor or PM motor alone. Okay, it's about the whole drive system. That is very important. So this is what happens in invasive method. Okay, in invasive method, what happens earlier? What I have shown is a non-invasive method. Okay, that is from the voltage and current sensors I do. But here in invasive method, what I do, I have an extra signal, or I have an extra sensor that I call it as a vibration sensor. From the vibration sensor, again the same process. Okay, the same process, but all these things will be done. This is similar to the invasive, non-invasive method. The same trend will be followed. But here I will operate on the sensor data. Okay, but I need to have a classification between a normal data and a faulty data. I need to have a classification between a normal data and a faulty data. Okay, now how to generate the faulty data? Now here lies the importance. Now I have a drive, I have a PM drive. How to generate the faulty data? So that is where you do simulation. Okay, you do simulation. Okay, you do FEM analysis. Okay, or you do a model. Okay, that is replicating your real-time hardware, and then from that you simulate various type of fault, or you fix the you take the vibration signals, and then you classify it. Okay, because I cannot tamper the system. Okay, so suppose you have a general drive that is running. Okay, say an induction motor drive or a PMSM drive. Okay, I cannot make an intentional fault. That is one way. One way I can have a fault and then I can create the data. Okay, but in general, what they tend to do is they go for a perfect simulation, and from that perfect simulation they extract faulty data for all kinds of fault, and then they go for classification. Okay, then they go for feature selection and classification. So the point that I'm trying to do is the simulation becomes very important. Okay, suppose you have an electric motor drive for an electric vehicle, you simulate it perfectly. Okay, and you create a fault in the simulation model, you take the data, okay, and then you train it, and then you try to classify it. Okay, that simulation model should be matching with your hardware model. That you need to first ensure. Okay, because creating a fault in a working model and then taking the data is not going to be possible. So we need to rely on a simulation model. So all these data are obtained based on the simulation model. Okay, so that is another aspect. So what are these general steps? Either it is going to be invasive method or non-invasive method. What are the steps? You need to go for data collection. Then you need to go for feature extraction. Then you need to have a fault detection and diagnosis. So these all are the steps. Okay, why whether I need to follow all these steps or not, it is not required. But if you take as a single entity, these steps might not be required. But when you take a drive system as a whole and find out where the fault is, then all these things will play a major role. So I need to have a data collection. I need to go for feature extraction. This is nothing but time frequency analysis. And then I need to go for fault detection, and I need to go for fault diagnosis. Okay. And this is what I said. In signal processing, I have time domain, I have frequency domain analysis, or I have time frequency domain analysis. Generally, I go for a time frequency domain analysis. Okay. To extract the features. I have a current signal. Okay, I have a current signal, I do a time frequency analysis, and then I extract the features. So based on the features, I will say whether the fault is occurred or not. Okay. So this is what. Okay, this is what is actually being done. So one is data collection, then we go for feature extraction, then we go for fault detection and identification. So here we have different setups. We go for neural network, we go for fuzzy logic algorithm, we go for some computational intelligence method, we go for hybrid techniques, hybrid AI techniques we can go. Okay, so this is where your computational intelligence algorithm, or what we call it as soft computing techniques, will come into picture. Okay, and this is where your in feature extraction, we call it as wavelet transform. Okay, wavelet transform, or we can call it for S transform, or even Fourier transform will come into picture. Okay, so S transform, all these things will come into picture in feature extraction. Okay, So we have worked on one simple method, okay, so that I'll be able to say what is all these feature extraction and feature classification. So consider a BLDC motor drive, okay, this is going to be a drive, there is a battery, a 3-phase inverter, which is we are driving a BLDC motor with a current controller, okay, or we can assume it as a controller wherein it operates on the Hall sequence. Now what we have taken is, we have taken that there are faults that occur in the Hall sensors. Okay, we assume that there are faults in the Hall sensors. Now, how to detect whether there are faults in the Hall sensors, right? In addition, okay, you need to go for short circuit fault, you need to go for double switch fault, single switch fault, open. These are all different categories where the controller has to decide. Okay, so this is how it is done. We have stator currents. The stator currents are given for S transform analysis. This is time frequency analysis. From the time frequency analysis, I need to classify what is the kind of fault. Okay, so the onus is on controller. I need to program the controller and then I need to classify the fault. Okay, this is the general diagram, right? Okay, so these are all the merits and demerits of different time frequency analysis. I can go for Fourier transform, or I can go for STFT, short time Fourier transform, or I can go for S transform, or I can go for wavelet transform. Okay, any method you can apply, but each and every method has their own advantages and disadvantages. Okay, so now here what we have done is, we have done a S transform analysis. Okay, in MATLAB the code is available, and then we take the mean of the maximum time amplitude, and then we take the mean of the standard deviation. So this is just to illustrate that we have two features. This is what we call it as features. Now what we tend to do is, we have the motor currents. Okay, we'll have the motor currents. So see here, okay, this is the variation, this is the normal condition, this is the torque waveform, and this is the speed waveform. Okay, this is the normal switching states of the Hall sensors. Now what we'll try to do is, we'll take the current. Okay, in the normal condition, we'll take the current. So this current, what I'll do is, I'll go for S transform. I'll take the S transform of this value of current, and then I'll extract the features. What features I'll extract? I'll extract these two features. Okay, how to extract? These are all mathematical tools, or these are all statistical commands which are directly available in MATLAB. So I'll sample the current, okay, and then I'll just take the features from IA, IB, and IC. And then I'll extract the features. So see, F1 is this value, F2, F2 for IB phase, and F1, F2 for C phase. So this is for normal condition. What I am trying to do, I am taking the phase current, I am applying feature extraction, and then I am extracting the features. What are the features I have extracted? Say F1 and F2. Now suppose if there is a fault, okay, suppose if there is a fault. Suppose we assume that there is a Hall sensor C failure. There is a fault in the Hall sensor C. Now what happens? There will be a change in the switching state. So there will be variation in my torque, as well as there will be variation in my speed. As well, there will be variation in my current. See the value of current, the current waveform itself is different. HA, HP, HC is the three sensors. Now I am considering fault in only the Hall sensor C, and when I see the value of current, there is a difference. Now by predicting this, by seeing this waveform, I cannot do anything. So what I am trying to do is, I am trying to extract the features. I am trying to extract the features from IA, IB, and IC. So when there is a fault in the Hall sensor C, see what happens to the value? The value is differing with respect to the normal value. Suppose when there is a variation in Hall sensor B, okay, again the value is different. Suppose then there is a fault in Hall sensor A, the value is different. Okay, right? So from this particular table, I'll be able to say whether the fault occurs either in Hall sensor C, B, or A. If I'm not trying to figure out, then I'll add some more features. I'll add, say, two other features, say F3 and F4, in order to predict whether the fault has occurred or not in which of the sensors. So I can add n number of features. Till I have a foolproof classification of what is the kind of fault. Okay, so this is one important aspect. Similarly, I can also go for a double sensor failure. If there is a double sensor failure, that is, if HC and HP fails, what will happen to the values? Similarly, if HB and HA fails, like this, I simulate it and I take the data. But please understand, the simulation has to be perfect. Okay, simulation has to match with the hardware, else the entire thing will go wrong. Okay, the first and foremost thing is, we need to validate the simulation with the hardware itself. We need to validate the simulation with our hardware, and only then we need to proceed. So now I think you are able to understand that when there is a fault, what happens to the features extracted from A phase? The features extracted from A phase will be different. From B phase, it will be different. So now I can prepare a lookup table, or I can have a threshold and say what happens is, okay, I'll start the closed loop operation. I'll analyze the waveform, analyze the stator current, and then I fix the threshold value. Okay, if the obtained feature value is equal to the actual feature value, okay, then I can say the fault is there. Again, then I go for fault classification. Okay, so this is what I wanted to tell about feature extraction. Okay, this is how I do with the help of feature extraction. After feature extraction, what I'll just say, I'll say whether I'll check whether the obtained value is equal to the actual feature value. So if it matches with one of the feature value, then I can say the fault has occurred or not, and then I can classify the fault, whether it is a single sensor fault or whether it is a two sensor fault. Like this, I can classify. Okay, so this is one method. Likewise, what I need to do is I need to integrate all the things, not only the hall sensor. I need to integrate the motor fault. I need to integrate the inverter fault. I need to integrate whether the battery is working fine. So all these things can be analyzed by only using the three currents, IEA, IB, and IC. So imagine the complexity of the data. So here I am taking only double sensor fault and single sensor fault. Okay, but see, imagine the complexity when I am going to integrate all these things. So that is where recently they use machine learning techniques. Since you are going to operate on large number of data, you have AI techniques in order for classification. Okay, so that is what I said. You need to take the drive as a whole. Okay, it's not only the motor part. Okay, so here we'll have bearing fault, here you short circuit fault, open circuit fault, okay, eccentricity fault, demagnetization. So here in inverter, I'll have open circuit fault, short circuit. Like this, the number of fault is going to be higher. So that is where the complexity comes. So that is where your data analytics, or what we can call it as data science, comes into picture. Similarly, we have done one work in SRM drive system. Okay, in SRM drive, we have done one work. So this is the general drive for your SR motor. Okay, general drive for your switch reluctance motor. Okay, so wherein we compare, this is the closed loop control. Now here what we have done is, we have done, see here what happens again for different types of faults. What happens, we are going to sense the voltage and current, and then what happens for a short circuit fault, there is a variation in my current. Okay, there is a variation in my current. Similarly, for different things, there is a variation in current, open circuit and short circuit. So here again, we can use Hilbert transform. Here we have tried to use Hilbert transform. So Hilbert transform is one more time frequency analysis. So from Hilbert transform, we extract four features, F1, F2, F3, and F4, and then we can classify the fault. We can use a combination of Hilbert transform as well as S transform as well. Okay, that hybrid model is also okay. Okay, you can use a hybrid model of S transform combining with the Hilbert transform to classify the fault. Right? So this is one thing. And another work that we have done, see here, this is the difference. Okay, for normal condition, these are all the values. Okay, when there is an open circuit fault, the values will change. See here, it is decreasing. Short circuit fault, this value is increasing. Interturn fault, what happens again, there is a variation in this particular value. With non-uniform winding, there is a difference. So like this, from this difference, I will be able to say what is the nature of fault, what is the kind of fault. Okay, so this is a simple approach. Okay, to tell it. Okay, with respect to drive. Right. So one more thing that we have done is, we have done with respect to speed. In SRM drive itself, what we have done is, we have taken the image part. We have taken the image of the speed signal. Okay, we have taken the image of the speed signal, and from the image, okay, we used a filter, okay, to filter out the noises, and then we did some DCT. Okay. So, and then we extracted the features, then we optimized the features, and then we have classified. This is one more thing that we can do, okay, with the help of your image. So image based algorithm. So image classification also can be done, right? And this process is same, but except that the filtering and the segmentation, image segmentation will be different, and the feature extraction will be different. Okay. And then we can optimize the features. How many features we are going to select? That is one more thing that we can do. The help of the neural network based classifier, you can classify whether the fault has occurred or not. So this is one more technique that you can use. Okay, so generally how it will be done, any neural network techniques or any machine learning techniques, how it will work, we'll give the input. Okay, what are the inputs that we give? These inputs are nothing but the statistical features. Now what I call it as the input is the statistical features. The statistical features in the sense, here I say F1, F2, F3, these are all what we call it as a statistical features. From the statistical features, from the current, what I'll do is from the current waveform, I'll extract the statistical features, and these statistical features will form the input, and the neural network will say what is the type of fault, what is the classification of fault. First, it will say whether the fault is there or not, and then it will say if there is a fault, it will tend to classify what is the nature of the fault. So this is the thing that is fault. It's not only neural network, there are again other techniques that are followed. That is where your machine learning comes into picture. Okay, in machine learning, what we tend to do is we have data. Okay, we prepare a model with respect to data, and we have different algorithms in order to train the model and in order to predict the particular model. Okay, so this is where most of the papers or most of the trend is progressing. Okay, and here there are different classifications. We have semi-supervised learning and we have unsupervised learning. So these are all the different algorithms which we can do for fault classification. So like this, there are different algorithms which we can work upon for FLAR. And now there is a recent trend which we have is one machine learning, and then they call it as deep learning. Now what is the difference here? Here we first give an input, we extract the features, and then we classify it. But here when I give an input, all these things are done with the help of a neural network itself, and it says whether there is a fault or not. So like this is what is the difference between machine learning techniques and deep learning techniques. Okay, so this is another trend, okay, wherein they use algorithms, neural network based algorithms to classify the different types of faults. Okay, so this I am not taking. This is one technique which we can use for classifying the faults. This is again available in MATLAB. Okay, so just as the time is not there, I'm just skipping up and coming to the summary slide. So what we actually do, we use some sensors, we sense the signals, okay, and generally what we can do is we integrate it with respect to the system, and here we do all the analysis. Here the program can be in MATLAB itself. The program can be in MATLAB, okay, or any software. Even you can do a program in Python and say, and then you can classify the fault. So all the analysis is done in your PC itself. So we'll have a system. Okay, we'll have a hardware. The output from the hardware will sample and give the data to the system, and here we do the diagnosis part, and then it can also send the corrective action part, right? And this is where again you can integrate. Suppose if you want to communicate it to a smaller area, this is where your IoT is also integrated, and you can say whether the fault is occurred or not, and what is the corrective action that is being taken place. Okay, so this is how a fault detection and how fault diagnosis, and this is where the work is proceeding, and they are trying to integrate newer techniques, okay, newer machine learning techniques in order to have a model, fault classification model. Okay, so this is what I wanted to say. So fault classification and fault diagnosis. First, fault diagnosis and classification is very interesting and very important aspect. Okay, and there are two procedures. One, we can either go for model based procedure or you can go for model free procedures. Okay, when you go for model free procedures, you need to have a hardware. Okay, and then in hardware there are two procedures. One, we can go for invasive techniques, and we can also go for non-invasive techniques, but both the pattern are going to be the same. Okay, right? So you need to have data, and then you need to train the data, and then you need to find out what is the type of fault. First you need to detect the fault, and then you need to classify what is the type of fault. Okay, so this is where the trend is proceeding. Okay, so I hope I have shared my thoughts on the fault diagnosis. Okay, I will be happy for discussions. Thank you, learned audience, for your patient listening. Okay.
Dear participants, if you have any doubts, please ask.
Any clarifications you can ask.
If you have any doubts, please ask now. You can use chat box also.
Okay, thank you participants. And you can also mail me, okay, if there is anything.
Sir, thank you, sir, for being with us last 1 hour.
Thank you, sir.
The fault diagnosis is very much helpful for the people who are doing their electrical vehicle applications also. Also that wind energy very well, that many fault issues we can do, many research can be explored. So your session was very helpful to us, and thank you so much for being with us for last 1 hour and giving your valuable thoughts. On behalf of the participants, thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, all the participants. Thank you, sir. Thank you for inviting me. I would place on record my sincere thanks for giving me an opportunity to share my thoughts. Thank you, learned audience. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much. I leave the meeting. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, dear participants, right side that chat box, we have shared that feedback form. Yesterday also some of the feedback form is also missing. Only 12 candidates only entered the feedback. So kindly enter the feedback. It is very much necessary. Also attendance of inaugural and valedictory function also we have to take a record and send to ISTE. So that is also very much important. So kindly attend tomorrow's valedictory function also without fail. And tomorrow morning we have the section of modeling of a permanent magnet synchronous machine for electrical vehicle application. It is also very much helpful for the electrical vehicle point of view. I request all of you to attend. Have a good day. Thank you.